Students, today I am going to start with your next theme, that is the theme 15 of your history part 3rd, Mahatma Gandhi and the Nationalist Movement. So, what this lesson is all about? First of all, I want to tell you something about Mahatma Gandhi. That Mahatma Gandhi was born in a very rich family. His father was talukdar of his own village. He was born in Kathiawar in Gujarat, and he was born in 1889, and he was married at a very early age, at the age of 13, with Kasturba Gandhi, and thereafter he went to England for pursuing higher studies. He returned to India and as a barrister, and then he started practicing as a lawyer in Mumbai. And for the case for his client, he has to go to South Africa, where he also experienced a very indiscriminatory practice of apartheid. Apartheid was a very inhuman practice, and it was a discriminatory practice which was followed by the British government over there in South America against the native Africans and against the Asians on the basis of the skin color. This was a racial this practice was related to the racial discrimination. So a very oppressive practice followed exclusively by the white government of the South Africa against its native South African and Asians was known as apartheid. So, when he experienced this practice, when he was thrown out from the first class compartment of the railway, where he has already taken ticket by the two British officers, then he started the satyagraha against this oppressive practice by the British government. And the first time he launched satyagraha over there against this practice, and he was successful in getting the rights of the South Africans from the British government over there. And in this way he became very popular. So he spent maximum years of his life in South Africa to end this oppressive practice of apartheid. When he returned to India in the year 1915, his popularity has already reached India, and he was given the title Mahatma. So, when he returned to India, he already had attained the age of 45 years. It means that he has spent nearly half of his life in South Africa against the apartheid practice. So when he returned to India, at that time in the year 1915, already the First World War has started, because the First World War has started among the two powerful groups of Europe in the year 1914 to 1918, and these two powerful groups were the Allied nation and the Central Powers. So Allied nations, the member countries of the Allied nations were the Britain, Russia, and France, whereas the member countries of the Central Powers were Germany, who was playing a very major role in the First World War, and then Austria Hungary, Italy, and Turkey. Later on, the First World War was joined by USA in the side of the Allied nations. And at that time, the India was the colony of the British government, and so the British government, who were taking a very active part in favor of the Allied nations, was also forcing the Indians to participate in the First World War from from the side of their country, that is the imperial country Britain. But the leaders, they were against the British to force the Indians to take part in the First World War. So at that time, when he reached India in the year 1915, a very crucial stage was there in India. Forced recruitment was done of the Indians by the British government, and they were forced to participate in the First World War as soldiers, where they were dying, and then war expenditure has increased, and so it led to a crisis of shortage, crisis of food and other supplies in the country. Influenza epidemic has spread, and also first time income tax was also introduced at that time. So when he reached India, at that time, first of all, he met his mentor Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and he was formally introduced to the Indians in the inauguration of the Banaras Hindu University, and where he also met with the other prominent Indian leaders. There he gave a very impressive speech when he addressed the Indians, and he was not so formally dressed. He was dressed like the other Indians. So his speech was very fascinating, and everyone was impressed with his speech. Then after that he did not took part in any type of political activity. uh, he simply he did not participate, he just surveyed. He remained in India and surveyed only for 1 year. He surveyed India to see the circumstances of India, what were the circumstances prevailing in the villages especially, and what was the condition of the villagers at that time. So he saw a very pitiable condition of the villagers, and seeing he was drastically moved by the conditions of the villagers, that even they were not having the clothes to wear. So he left his attire of the, like he was dressing up like a western clothing and all that. So he left all his attire of dressing sense of westernized clothes. He left all that, and instead he started wearing a loin cloth, and wearing the clothes like a village person. Okay, so in this way he was he tried to look like a simple villager of Indian, instead of person belonging to a very high class society. At that time, most of the Indian leaders, they were dressing just like Britishers, or they were either wearing a high neck sherwani to show them that they belong to a very high class society. But he was not like them. He wanted to show that he was one of the person who are just like other Indians, other common villagers, and so he used to dress like them, and so he was more popular, because the people of India used to mean the people of Indians, the people of India, they associated him like he is one of them, and so he became very popular because of his dressing, the way he used to dress like a common person. Okay, so now these are my notes, and from these notes also, I want to brief you about this chapter, so it is very easier for you to understand. So Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, as I have already told you, was born in Porbandar on 2nd October 1889. Gandhiji set for South Africa as a barrister to to argue a case in 1892. Then Gandhiji returned from South Africa in the year 1915, and his mentor Gopal Krishna Gokhale, the political guru of Mahatma Gandhi, he told him to first of all survey the India and see the condition of India during that time. And then the first then after that he in the year from the year 1917 he launched three successful campaigns. So first of all in the year 1917 he started the Champaran Satyagrah, and this Champaran Satyagrah was against the oppressive British plantation owners who were forcing the Indian peasants to grow indigo. Indigo is a type of a blue dye in their farms instead of the rice crop, and this Champaran is in Bihar. So the farmers, the peasants of the Champaran, they were against growing the indigo because first of all because the growing season of rice and indigo is the same, and so when they have to grow indigo they were not able to grow rice, and hence it led to severe famine because there is a shortage of food. And then second thing, that continuous growing of indigo leads to the soil erosion, means the soil nutrients were taken away, and so the soil used means loses its fertility. So they were against it, and in this way when Mahatma Gandhi went over there in Champaran, and then he saw the pitiable condition of the farmers, then he launched a campaign against these indigo plantation owners from the side of these peasants, and he started a Champaran Satyagrah in 1917, and he was successful in making the British plantation owners not to force the Indian farmers to grow indigo, and so now the Indian farmers could grow the food crops instead of growing the indigo. Then after that he also launched another campaign for the in the district of Kheda in Gujarat, and at that time during this 1917 there was especially you can say there was a famine like situation has occurred in Kheda, and these Britishers, they were asking exorbitant taxes from the peasants. They were asking very huge amount of taxes, and these poor peasants whose crops have failed, they were unable to pay the taxes, and so they were asking they were demanding that the British government either should relax their tax or should waive their tax. And in this time Mohan Das Karamchand Gandhi, he joined the peasants of the Satyagrah against the no tax campaign, and he was successful in this through his Kheda Satyagrah, means the peasants were relaxed on that particular year for not giving the tax. And then the third, in the year 1918, he also launched one more campaign, and that campaign was related to the Ahmedabad textile mill owners. And these Ahmedabad textile mill owners, they actually during the First World War, the British industries were not able to supply were not able to manufacture that much of goods which were required by the soldiers who were fighting at the war front. So the Britishers, they asked the Indian industrialists to to manufacture more, and for this the manufacturers, for getting more profit during this time, they employed more laborers, and these laborers, they have to work day and night. They were working day and night in both the shifts, but the wages that they were getting, the payments that were made were only related to one time, not for the both the shifts. And so the laborers of these Ahmedabad textile mill owners, they were asking for the extra wages. For this, the textile mill owners were reluctant to give. And but when Mahatma Gandhi started a satyagraha in favor of these laborers so that they could get the extra wages for which they have worked, then it was successful, and the mill owners, they have to pay to them. Okay, so this was the three successful campaigns. And finally then then after that he was very much popular with the people of India, and um, during this time certain incidents also happen, like in the year 1919, when the First World War got over, then the Allied nations and the Britain, they emerged as a victorious in the war, and they got victory, and they got victory with the help of the Indians. But instead of recognizing the Indians, because the Indians have really helped the Britishers to achieve the victory, to win the war, but instead of recognizing them, especially the soldiers who were fighting for the British government, the the British government did not revolted them, like they have revolted to their own British soldiers. So the Indian soldiers, they were very much dissatisfied with the attitude of the British government. And second, during the war, the British government, they promised Indians that if they win the war, then the India will get a dominion status. That is, the internal government will be of the Indians and external support will be given from the British government. But instead of giving Indians the dominion status, they brought a very oppressive act to the Indians. They imposed a very oppressive act on the Indians, and that oppressive act came to be known as the Rowlatt Act. The Rowlatt Act of 1919. So, what was the Rowlatt Act and why it was considered as a black act by the Indians? Because according to this act was passed hurriedly in the British Parliament, and it was passed by the Sir Sidney Rowlatt. According to this act, the British police officers, they were given more power to arrest the Indians if they are doubtful, if they are on the grounds of suspicion that if that particular Indian is indulged in any type of political activity against the British government. So just on the grounds of suspicion, the British police officers can arrest any Indian and sent him to jail for 2 years, for rigorous imprisonment for 2 years without any trial. So in this way, many thousands of Indians, means thousands of Indians, were arrested and they were imprisoned for 2 years rigorous imprisonment. So that's why it was considered a very oppressive act, a black act by the Indians. At that time, Mahatma Gandhi, he also started Rowlatt Satyagraha against this Rowlatt Act with the Indians, so that the British government can take back this act, means can end this act. And in this, on 6th April, he started the Rowlatt Act. 6th April 1919, he started the Rowlatt Satyagraha against the Rowlatt Act. When the British government saw that, and for this, sorry, just a minute. So when he started the Rowlatt Satyagraha, at that time he declared that the India will be means Bharat Bandh. He declared Bharat Bandh, and he also wanted to go to Delhi. So, seeing the alarming condition, the British government became very afraid, and they arrested the Gandhiji, and they did not let the Gandhiji to, means he was put to house arrest. He was not he was, so that he could not proceed to Delhi, and the peace, but the Bandh that he declared was somewhat successful, and he declared in a peaceful manner. Satyagraha means uh, agitation with peace. Okay, means showing the agitation with peace, in which means with the help of truth. A person tries to make the oppressor realize that whatever he is doing is wrong. So, and the truth always wins. So, like truth trims, like in this manner. Okay, and but the when these English or the British officers, they did lathi charge on the peaceful procession of these Indians, then these Indians, they became very angry, and then they, instead of doing it in a non-violent method, they became very violent, and they also started attacking on the British offices, and even they attacked on some of the British police officers also. So in this way, it soon became an act of violence. Okay, and then during this time, on 13th April 1919, a very tragic incident occurred in the Jallianwala Bagh, which is in Amritsar. And what was the tragic incident of Jallianwala Bagh? So the tragic incident was that curfew was imposed, means especially these type of political activities were more in Punjab. The British government was alarmed, and so at that time curfew was imposed in Amritsar. And at that time, during 13th April 1919, it was also a time of Baisakhi festival, and so most of the innocent villagers who were not knowing about the curfew, they have gathered in Jallianwala Bagh to celebrate Baisakhi. And few of the and few of the people, they have also gathered for opposing the British government, for arresting the two leaders, Saifuddin Kichlu and the Dr. Satyapal. At that time, General Dyer entered with his troops and closed the main entrance gate, because there was only one gate for entering and for exit, and that exit gate was locked. And then he ordered his troops to fire upon these innocent crowd, and so more than 500 people were killed, which were also including men, women and children, and more than 800 were wounded. So exact is not exact how many were killed were still not known, but many were killed. And at that time, British government was criticized by all the Indians in the newspaper. So when the people of the North India, they came to know about this tragic incident, then they started they became very agitated, and they started opposing the British government. So to just curb their activities, the British government followed very oppressive they were very oppressive, and they were very suppressive. They started arresting the political leaders, and as well as they even repressed their through in a very brutal manner. Okay, so During that time, one more incident happened, and that was the starting of the Khilafat movement. So, Khilafat movement was started in 1919 by the two brothers. Who were these two brothers? The Ali brothers, the Muhammad Ali and the Shaukat Ali. So these two brothers, they were the Sunni Muslims, and they have launched a Khilafat movement in India against the British government. And it was because during the First World War, Turkey was defeated. Ottoman Turkey was defeated by the Britain, and a very humiliating treaty was imposed on the Ottoman Turkey, and the Khalifa, who is not only considered as the political head, but he is also considered as the religious head of all the Muslims of the world, was dispossessed from his throne, and the Turkey was acquired. It was annexed by the British government. So it created a feeling of agitation among all the Muslims, Sunni Muslims all over the world. And these Sunni Muslims, they started opposing the British government for its act. The Sunni Muslims were demanding that the Khalifa should again be given back his throne, and that humiliating treaty should be ended. So in this, these two brothers, they also joined the movement, and they started the Khilafat movement in India against the British government. Seeing that the Muslims are now also against the Britishers, the Gandhiji thought it as an opportunity to mix the Rowlatt Satyagraha with the Khilafat movement, to make it a mass movement in India against the British government, which he declared it as a non-cooperation movement, Khilafat non-cooperation movement. And he then discussed it with the leaders of the Indian National Congress, because at that time Indian National Congress party was the very popular and prominent party of India. And and Gandhiji thought that if it will be launched, this movement will be launched by the Indian National Congress, then this movement will become a very successful in uniting all the Indians against the British government. And hence formally it was decided in December 1920 in the Nagpur session that in 1921 they will launch a mass movement in India, non-cooperation, and it will be launched in the phases, first from the cities, and then soon it will be spread to the villages and to the other remote parts of India. So when all the Indian National Congress agreed to it, then in 1921, January 1921, the non-cooperation movement was launched through the cities in India. Before that, one more act was passed in 1919, which was known as Government of India Act 1919, according to which and it was also known as the Morley Minto reforms. So according to the Government of India Act 1919, the separate electorate to the Muslims were given in India. So this ultimately led to the divide and rule policy of the British government. So I was telling you about that. I was telling you about the launching of the non-cooperation movement. So it was launched in cities, and it was in phases. So first of all, when it was launched in cities, then it was launched by returning the titles. All the prominent Indians who were given the awards by the British government, they returned their title to the British government, like Kaisar-e Hind by Mahatma Gandhi and all that. And then after that boycott, because he believed that the Britishers are sustaining, they are living in India with the cooperation of the Indians only, because these are very few Britishers, and they are only, not only they are living in India, but they are administering upon the Indians because of the cooperation of the Indians. So if we want to throw the British from India, then first of all we don't have to cooperate with them, we have to do non-cooperation, and we have to defy the rules that are formed by the British government. And hence first of all non-cooperation movement was launched, and in boycott, in which the two methods were there. First of all boycott, and then emphasis on the using the indigenous goods. So they all the students, they started students boycotted their schools and colleges, and the officers who were there in the government jobs, they left their jobs. Then the lawyers boycotted the imperial courts, and there was also a provision that the Indian National Congress leader will boycott from the provincial elections that were going to be held in the year 1921. But few of the leaders of the Indian National Congress, they were not agreed to it, like C.R. Das and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and they wanted to win the election and to form their government at the provinces, and hence they formed their own party, Swaraj Party, and they contested the election, won the elections, and formed their government in 1922 at the United Provinces. So, and even in Madras, Justice Party was formed, which was the party of the Dalits, and they also won it during the time of the non-cooperation, and they also formed their government in Madras. So this program, the movement that was launched by Mahatma Gandhi was very successful, and many people, they joined, many Indians, it was joined by Indians all throughout the India and against the British government, and the British government became very afraid. But this movement, which was started in a non-violent method, soon it changed into a violent manner. How? Because in 1922, in February 1922, a peaceful procession which was passing through the Chauri Chaura police station. Chauri Chaura is a village in Gorakhpur in United Provinces. So when that peaceful procession, it passed through this, it was attacked by the police officers of that police station. They started beating them, and so that the people of that procession, they got angry, and they caught hold of all these 22 policemen who were all Indians, and they locked them inside the police station and lit fire from outside. All these 22 policemen were burnt alive. So when it became very violent, then Gandhiji was forced to call back the movement. Then he remained silent for few years, because he was arrested for creating sedition on the grounds of sedition against provoking the people against the British government, and was sent to imprisonment for 6 years. But because he started that movement in a non-violent manner, so nothing was proved against him, and because of his good conduct, he was released 2 years before. So just for 2 years, 4 years he remained in jail, and then he came back. During this period of time, nothing political activity happened against the British government. Then finally, in 1927, Simon Commission was made by the British Parliament to go and find out what is the reason of agitation among the Indians. And the Simon Commission came to India in 1928, but it was headed by Sir John Simon, and hence it was known as Simon Commission. But because it was not having any Indian in it, that's why the all the Indians, especially the political leaders of Congress, Hindu Mahasabha, All India Muslim League, they all protested against the Simon Commission, and they also shouted, Simon, go back, and they opposed it wearing black ribbons and in their hands. But Simon Commission stayed for India, surveyed in, and finally presented its report to the British government in 1929, in which it stated that the reforms could only be done and the Indians could only be satisfied if it would be given the dominion status. Okay, then during 1930, the whole world was struck with the economic depression, and India, because it's a agricultural country, it was the severe struck with it, and most of the big peasants, they were the most severe influenced by the economic depression, and they were unable to pay the taxes to the British government, as the British government, they were asking taxes from them even at the time of their loss. So it asked the Mahatma Gandhi to help them in this time, in the crisis time, and hence Indian National Congress again wrote a letter to Lord Irwin, who was the, then you can say, Viceroy of India, to stating 11 demands and asking them to look after these demands. And it said कि if that demands will not be resolved, then he should be ready for a big movement, that was a civil disobedience movement. So when Lord Irwin did not pay attention to it, finally in 12th March 1930, mass movement was launched by Gandhi ji. It was launched by Indian National Congress led by Mahatma Gandhi, in which Mahatma Gandhi took the initiative to break the salt law with his 78 followers from his Sabarmati ashram to the coastal town of Dandi, in which he walked per day 10 miles, and in this way he finished the distance of 240 miles in 24 days. But when he was walking, he was joined soon by millions of his followers, and when they reached the coastal town Dandi, they all broke the law, the salt law, which was a very oppressive law, as according to this law only the Britishers, they got the monopoly to manufacture salt, and they were imposing taxes, and salt is consumed not only by the by the rich people but also the poor people, and the poor people were unable to even buy the salt, for which is an important ingredient of the food. So in this way this was spread to the whole India, and the British, they were very much afraid that now they cannot sustain in India for a longer time. So to break the salt law, there was a Gandhi-Irwin Pact in 1931, according to which if Gandhiji will participate in the second round table conference, because he did not during the salt march, during the civil disobedience movement, first round table conference was also initiated in 1930, in which along with Mahatma Gandhi even the leaders of the Indian National Congress, they did not participate. And so for the deciding the status of India, but this time Lord Irwin emphasized Gandhiji to participate with the Indians in the second round table conference, and for this he said he should also call back the civil disobedience movement. And for this he said that if for this he said that if he will call back the civil disobedience movement and participate in the second round table conference, then all the prisoners who are arrested during these two civil disobedience movement will be released, only leaving those prisoners who were accused of any type of criminal offense against the British government. And when Mahatma Gandhi agreed to it, he called back the civil disobedience movement, and he went to participate in the second round table conference with the Indian National Congress leaders. But his meeting with the British Prime Minister was not fruitful, and hence he has to return to India empty-handed. He again relaunched the civil disobedience movement in 1932, but all the Indian people, they were fed up with the launching and calling back, and so they did not participate, and hence finally the civil disobedience movement ended in 1933. Then the last day was the then for few years he did nothing. He did not participate in the political activities, and finally during the Second World War which happened in 1939 to 1945, there was a fear that India could be attacked by the Japan, which was participating from the Axis power. Mahatma Gandhi again launched a very big movement which was known as Quit India movement in 1942, in which he gave a slogan, Karo ya Maro, do or die, and which was also handled by the British government in a very oppressive manner. All the political leaders were arrested, but it was still continued by the Indian people against the British government, and it was very successful, and the British came to know that now they could not sustain in India, and hence they have to give the freedom to the Indians. And finally then Stifford mission was sent to India to settle down and the transfer of power. But at that time, All India Muslim League, the leader of All India Muslim League, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he wanted to have a separate nation, Pakistan, and so this Stifford mission, which has come to transfer the power to India, could not work out, and hence finally in the Indian Independence Act of 1945, India and Pakistan, they were partitioned, and under the viceroy of the Lord Mountbatten, who was the last Mountbatten, India was partitioned. India got freedom on 15th August 1947, and Pakistan on 14th August 1947. But this freedom did not came to us like this. Many thousands of people, they have to sacrifice and give up their life to secure a better future for the Indians. So we can say that yes, Mahatma Gandhi was the person who mobilized the Indians to oust the British from our country. So in this way, his role in the political scene of India could not be ignored, and he will always be praised for his contribution. Thank you, students. Hope you have liked it. I know that during impartation of my lecture, I committed certain mistakes, so I'm sorry for that. But still, I think so. I tried to summarize this whole chapter, which is a very big lesson, in only in 1 hour. I think so it's not 1 hour also, in a very short brief period of time. Okay, and I think so it might be useful to you for your studies. Okay, thank you, students.